Tonight, we venture to the storm-swept shores of the Orkney Islands, a place where the wind whispers ancient tales and the sea hides unspeakable terrors. Here, in this remote corner of Scotland, a legend was born from the deepest fears of its people. A creature so vile, so utterly nightmarish, that its very name was spoken only in hushed, trembling tones. This is the story of the Nuckelavee, the horse fiend of the northern sea. Our story begins on a night much like any other, yet steeped in a palpable sense of dread. The villagers gathered at the shore, their faces pale in the flickering torchlight. The ocean roared, a sound louder than thunder, as if the world itself was being torn apart. At the very front of the crowd, a man named Enor stood alone, his only shield against the encroaching darkness a single, sputtering lantern. The mist, a constant companion on these islands, began to thicken around him. But this was no ordinary fog. It swirled and twisted, coiling like living smoke, moving with a malevolent intelligence. And then, through the churning gray veil, he saw it. A silhouette emerged, a shape that defied all logic and reason. It was tall, grotesquely deformed, and it moved with a slow, deliberate gait through the fog. At first, Einar's mind, struggling to make sense of the horror, told him it was a horse. A large, strange horse, perhaps lost in the storm. But as the figure drew closer, the horrifying truth began to dawn on him. He saw the rider, or rather, what he thought was a rider. A humanoid form was fused to the beast's back, not sitting upon it, but growing out of it. They were one entity, a monstrous centaur from a madman's dream, sharing the same hideously exposed, pulsing flesh. It moved with unnatural, jerky motions, like a puppet whose strings were pulled by a cruel master, like something that had learned to walk by, studying the death throes of humans. Einar was frozen to the spot, his breath caught in his throat. The light from his lantern cast a gruesome glow on the creature, revealing every horrific detail. Eat ad no skin none. Only raw, red muscle and a writhing network of thick, black veins that stretched like poisonous vines around its grotesque body. Yellow blood coursed through these veins, a sickening ichor that pulsed with a life of its own. Its equine head was enormous, with a single massive eye that burned with a fiery red malevolence, like a coal plucked from the heart of a furnace. From its wide gaping mouth, a vaporous, foul-smelling breath billowed out, a plague wind that withered crops and sickened livestock wherever it passed. The human torso that sprouted from its back was just as ghastly. It had no legs of its own, but its arms were long, unnaturally so, dangling almost to the ground, ending in hands with sharp, talon-like fingers. Its head, disproportionately large, lolled from side to side on a thin neck, as if it were too heavy to support. Then, that monstrous head twisted toward him, its one burning eye fixed on Einar, and it let out a sound. It was not a roar, not a scream, but a guttural, wet, agonizing noise that seemed to claw its way out of the creature's throat. It was the sound of pain itself being given a voice, a symphony of suffering and pure, undiluted hatred. That sound shattered Einar's paralysis. Instinct took over. He turned and ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Behind him, the creature's heavy hoof falls shook the very ground, a relentless drumbeat of death echoing in the night. The sound followed him, a promise of the end. As Einar sprinted back toward the village, chaos erupted. The villagers, seeing the abomination emerge from the mist, scattered in terror. Doors were slammed shut and barred. Windows were shuttered. The frantic sounds of locks clicking and bolts sliding home filled the air. Children, woken by the commotion, began to cry, their screams adding to the chorus of fear. In the stables and pens, animals went berserk, kicking and thrashing, trying to break free from their enclosures, their primal instincts screaming at them to flee the approaching evil. But the Nuckelavee did not give chase. It stopped at the edge of the shore, a hulking silhouette against the raging sea. It simply watched Einar flee, watched the village descend into panic. Its single, malevolent, I followed the running man, not with the urgency of a predator, but with the cold, calculating patience of an executioner. It was as if it were marking its next victim, savoring the fear that radiated from the tiny settlement. Because the Nuckelavee knew something the villagers were only just beginning to understand. The chase was not the point. The immediate kill was not its goal. Terror was the beginning. The heart-stopping, mind-breaking fear was the appetizer. Death always came later. So, what is this creature? Where did it come from? The Nuckelavee is a creature from Orcadian mythology, a composite demon of horse and man, said to be the most malevolent of all the spirits in the Scottish Isles. Its name is believed to derive from Nuckelavee, meaning devil of the sea. Unlike other mythical sea creatures, the Nuckelavee was not confined to the ocean. It was amphibious, able to stalk the land with the same terrifying presence it commanded in the water. Its breath, known as the mortishine, was a deadly plague. It could wilt crops, cause epidemics among cattle, and bring famine and death to the islands. It was blamed for everything from failed harvests to mysterious illnesses. The creature was seen as the personification of nature's brutal, uncaring power, the destructive force of the sea, the blight on the land, the ever-present threat of disease and decay. The only thing this demon of the sea truly feared was fresh, running water. To escape it, one had to cross a stream or a river. The villagers knew this. It was their only defense, a fragile barrier of purity against an overwhelming tide of filth and evil. This is why Einar, in many versions of the tale, didn't just run toward the village. He ran for the nearest burn, the nearest stream. His only hope of survival, a desperate leap across its clean, flowing current. But the Nuckelavee's influence lingered long after it retreated back into the sea. Its appearance was an omen, a sign that a season of hardship was upon the people of Orkney. The memory of its skinless form, its single burning eye, and its voice of pure agony would be seared into the minds of all who witnessed it. The story of Einar's flight would be told and retold for generations, a chilling bedtime story to keep children from wandering too close to the shore after dark. It's a story that reminds us how our ancestors explained the unexplainable. A bad harvest wasn't just bad luck, it was the Nuckelavee's foul breath. A drought wasn't just a weather pattern, it was the demon's curse upon the land. In a world without modern science, folklore provided answers, and monsters like the Nuckelavee gave a face to the random cruelty of fate. This creature represents a fundamental, primal fear, the fear of the unknown that lurks just beyond the light of our fire. The fear of something that is both familiar a horse, and horribly, fundamentally wrong. It's the uncanny valley taken to its most extreme and terrifying conclusion. The fusion of man and beast isn't majestic like a centaur of Greek myth. It's a body horror nightmare, a punishment made flesh. Even today, standing on the shores of Orkney, with the wind howling and the gray waves crashing against the rocks, it's not hard to imagine something ancient and terrible stirring in the depths. You can almost feel the chill of the mortishine on the air and hear, carried on the wind, a sound that is not a roar, not a scream, but something horribly, terribly in between. The legend of the Nuckelavee lives on, a powerful reminder that some of the darkest monsters are not those from other worlds, but those born from our own world's deepest, darkest waters. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the heart of darkness. If you enjoy exploring the world's most terrifying myths and legends, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more tales from the shadows. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe stay away from the water's edge after dark.